They called it a lecture, but the academy had locked the doors. No one left once the beast was wheeled in. Its cage strained with every shift of its massive body, metal groaning under the weight of muscle and fury. Each exhale was a hiss of heat, fogging the reinforced glass. The instructor gestured at the predator. A specimen designed to measure fear. Stand too close, and it will sense weakness. That was all it took. Cadets glanced around, searching for a target. Their eyes landed on the human sitting small and unarmored in the back row. Soft-skinned, clawless, forgettable. Snickers rippled through the hall. Weakness found, one cadet muttered. Another leaned forward, grinning with double rows of thin teeth. The beast will save us the trouble of watching him fail. Dozens of alien cadets, from half the sectors in the Mid-Orion Pact, turned to see if the human would flinch. He didn't. He simply sat there, one leg crossed over the other, elbows resting on the armrests of the too large, alien-sized seat. His hands were relaxed, folded loosely on his lap. He stared at the beast, not like it was something to fear, but like it was something to solve. The predator was called a Velosan hound, though no real hound had ever looked like it. It stood nearly 7 feet at the shoulder, muscle piled over muscle beneath thick black skin that rippled with every twitch. Its jaws could dislocate wide enough to crack a Terralin in half. Its eyes glowed orange, pupils vertical and hungry. A low, constant growl vibrated through its chest and into the floor, a warning to everything with ears. Cadets leaned back slightly as the Velosan snapped its jaws, slamming itself against the cage wall. The impact shook the reinforced plating. No one laughed now. But they still glanced at the human. It hadn't stopped watching him since it was wheeled in. The human blinked once. "You gonna cry?" hissed an Alari cadet, one row ahead of him. Her wings twitched. The human's name was Cole. He didn't answer her. His eyes never left the predator. The instructor's voice cut through the murmurs. "This is not a game. The Velosan does not bluff. It has no concept of restraint. It exists to challenge hierarchy through combat. The only thing it respects is dominance." More shuffling in the rows. One cadet adjusted his armored bracers. Another checked the holster at her thigh, though no one had been permitted to bring weapons inside. Observe the responses. You will be tested on the subtle markers of behavioral escalation. Note its focus, its tail movement, breathing patterns. Everyone was scribbling notes, except Cole. He still hadn't moved. The beast stopped pacing. Its nostrils flared. It pressed its snout to the glass, smearing the fog with slow, careful inhales. It didn't lunge this time. It didn't growl. Its gaze burned through the distance between them. The instructors there were two now murmured to one another near the data terminal. The creature's vitals were spiking, they said. Elevated aggression, yet the pattern was strange. Directed, calculated. Odd, one of them said under his breath. It's displaying focus behavior. Focus behavior. Singular target. The class became very still. "It's going to charge," whispered someone. "It's picking him." Another voice, low and dry, "Why him?" Cole still hadn't moved. He looked back at the beast like someone listening to a language he almost recognized. The cage whined. One of the top bars had bent a little further inward. The lock hissed steam, automatic correction pressure. Nothing unusual. This was a lecture on apex predator behavior, after all. Contained risk, the systems would hold. Then came the scream of metal. A hinge sheared loose. One of the locking mechanisms blew backward in a burst of shrapnel. The cage door lurched outward, twisted, warped. Alarms blared through the hall. The Velosan didn't hesitate. It burst from the cage, a blur of black muscle and white teeth, charging straight for the human. And the room exploded into panic. Desks overturned. Alien cadets dove over each other, some climbing walls in desperation, some activating their neural shields, though they'd been told they were off limits. One cadet threw a chair, not at the beast, but behind him, as a distraction for whatever might follow. The instructors yelled conflicting orders. "Activate the countermeasures. Seal the doors. Get down." The beast ignored them all. It had locked on. Claws carved gouges into the polished stone. Breath thundered from its nostrils. The ground trembled beneath its weight. It aimed straight for the back row, straight for Cole. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He didn't even rise. He just stared. The Veloci launched forward, mouth wide, the roar forming in its chest like a rising earthquake. Time stilled for everyone else. And the human did not move. The Veloci's roar began like a storm in its lungs, a deep seismic rumble that swelled into something more than sound. It struck the chest before the ears, a bone-shaking pressure wave built to paralyze prey. It was the sound of predation honed by breeding tanks, engineered instincts, and 30,000 years of apex conditioning. It was halfway through the lunge when that roar stopped. No warning, no impact. Mid-air, the predator's jaws hung open. The sound died in its throat like a flame snuffed by cold wind. Its hind legs hit the floor first, scrambling to slow. Muscles locked, ribs flaring. Then its front limbs landed hard, claws screeching against stone. It slid another meter. It stopped 2 strides from Cole. Silence. The cadets frozen against the walls barely understood what they were seeing. Some still held chairs defensively. One had activated a temporary cloak, his outline still flickering beside the exit. Another was whispering a prayer in the clicking dialect of Solari Delta, though his voice cracked halfway through it. But the beast didn't attack. It stood there, hunched, trembling. Its mouth was still open, but no sound came out. The muscles in its shoulders rippled not in preparation, but hesitation. Its eyes, still fixed on Cole, seemed caught between instinct and something it didn't know how to process. Then, it lowered its head. Just a few inches at first, a subtle tilt. Cole didn't move. The Veloci's breath puffed out in short, fast bursts. Its chest expanded and deflated like it had run a mile. Still, it didn't lunge. It inched one forepaw back, claws scraping with restraint. The cadets stared, many of them too shocked to blink. Cole had not raised a hand. He had no weapon, no armor, no pheromonal dampeners or psychic shields, nothing defensive at all. Yet here the Veloci stood bowed, silent, head low. One of the instructors, Commander Rital, tried to re-engage the beast's neural override. The implant should have locked its motor functions the instant the cage failed. But the readings made no sense. No override response, she hissed to her colleague. No kill instinct. The aggression curve just dropped. Look at that, it's showing deferral posturing. Deferral? Whispered Instructor Pavak. To him? One cadet near the front finally breathed. It's afraid. The words crawled across the room like an infection. The Veloci shifted again, lowering its body further, now belly close to the ground. Submission behavior. Defensive posture. Head down, limbs tucked, eyes half-lidded. Toward the human. Cole blinked once, slowly. Then he exhaled. He didn't speak. Not yet. He stood calm, measured, without rushing, and only then did everyone realize how small he looked next to the beast. It towered over him still, despite being crouched. Its shoulders alone were wider than his full frame. If it chose to react violently, no one would have been fast enough to intervene. But it didn't react. It stayed low. Cole stepped forward once. Just once. The Veloci let out a soft chuff and lowered its snout until it was nearly touching the floor. Its entire posture had gone limp, not injured, not sedated, obedient. Someone near the left wall dropped their datapad. No one picked it up. Cole knelt beside the beast. Easy, he murmured, I see you. The words weren't special, but the way he said them was, not soothing, not commanding, just present. One of the instructors tried to reassert control. Cadet, return to your seat. Do not engage the specimen. Cole didn't look up. He gently extended one hand, palm open, and placed it near the beast's massive front paw. Not touching. Just near. The Veloci sniffed it once, then again. A low sound vibrated from its throat, not a growl, but something deeper. Conflicted. Then it rested its massive head on the stone floor, inches from Cole's boots. The room was dead silent. Even the alarms had quieted. It was Pavek who finally whispered, "This isn't protocol." And Rital replied, "Neither is this." Cole didn't smile, didn't gloat. He simply stood, dusted his hands against his thighs, and stepped back. The beast stayed down, tracking him with those ember-glow eyes, still quiet. One cadet, a bipedal silicate from Ominar, asked the question none of the others dared. "What did you do to it?" Cole looked at the Velosin, then at the cadets, and finally at the instructors. "It knows scars when it sees them," he said. He pulled up his sleeves. Not dramatically, just enough to show. Faded lines, long, uneven, jagged burns crisscrossed his forearms, some half-healed, others old enough to have settled into permanent tissue damage. One, near the wrist, bore the pattern of a bite, something with molars, something big. Someone swore in Nixian. One of the instructors opened a medical overlay. The scars weren't cosmetic. The tissue damage reached deep. Verified. Not from training simulations. From experience. From surviving. A student near the front said, "No one survives a Velosin attack." Cole said nothing. No one laughed anymore. The lecture ended without a dismissal. One by one, cadets slinked from the room in shaken silence, giving Cole a wide berth as if he'd sprouted venom sacs in the last 10 minutes. Even the Velosin, still lying calmly by the twisted remnants of its cage, watched them go, unmoving. Its breathing had slowed. The violence had drained from its limbs. The instructors were the last to move, calling for medtechs and containment units. But even the handlers who arrived 10 minutes later wore double-shielded suits and didn't approach until Cole had already left. He walked out unescorted. No fanfare, no one followed. Except the whispers. By mid-cycle, every terminal on campus had the clip blurry at first, pulled from a cadet's helmet feed, then stabilized and replayed in training forums, break rooms, even the faculty lounge. The silence when the Velosin stopped, the lowering of its head, the moment Cole stood without flinching. By next cycle, they weren't whispering anymore. They were speculating. Did he use a mental override? He's too soft-blooded for that. Human brains aren't psychically active. Then what the hell happened? No one knew. But someone sent a summons. It arrived in Cole's room at dusk, projected in red, marked by the Academy's administrative seal. Standard phrasing. Report to Medical Tier 4. Clearance Level 2 required. No delay authorized. Cole was already lacing his boots when the message finished loading. The medbay was buried 6 decks underground, where even the walls hummed differently, soundproofed, hardened against breach. He was greeted not by staff, but by a tall humanoid with mirrored implants instead of eyes. "Cole Adams," it said, not asked. "Yeah." "This way." The hallway narrowed the deeper they went. A second pair of guards joined, though they didn't speak. Their weapons weren't drawn but ready. Not aimed, but available. Cole didn't flinch. The room they entered wasn't white or sterile. It looked more like an observation chamber. Circular, with a retractable wall on one side and a live display overhead, showing a full biometric scan. "Stripped to the waist," said a voice from behind the glass. Cole obeyed. He'd known this was coming. The scanner bathed him in blue light. Readouts populated instantly. Organ condition, musculoskeletal integrity, nerve conduction speeds. Then deeper. Scar tissue mapping, cellular damage overlays, bone remodeling activity. The readout paused. "Explain the radial fracture remodeling," came the voice again. From a fall, ice-covered incline, 4 meters. Healed improperly. Why wasn't it corrected? Wasn't an option at the time. Silence. "Show the left side." Cole turned. The display shifted. 3 healed ribs, 2 of them bowed slightly inward. Scapular impact trauma. A previously collapsed lung. Vertebral stress compression from a vertical load. Everything scarred over. All healed without surgical intervention. "You were under sustained force trauma," the voice said slowly. "Repeated instances." "Yes." "From where?" "Off-record operation. Civilian evac under partial collapse conditions." "You were trapped." "For a while." "How long?" Cole's eyes didn't shift. "Long enough." Another silence. This one lasted longer. "You didn't report it." No one asked. The lights flickered as the scanner shut down. The guards didn't move. The wall slid back into place. A different figure entered, now a compact woman, with silver lining her temples and a badge above her chest that read, Dr. Vera Malk. She didn't look like the rest. Her coat was folded at the sleeves, her hands ink-stained from annotation. I reviewed your files, she said. Guessing that's not standard. Neither are you. She walked around him slowly, gaze flicking between his body and the projected scans. These aren't ordinary injuries, Cadet Adams. Your humerus was rebroken mid-recovery and still shows compression near the distal head. The tendon scarring around your shoulders suggests high repetition load under stress. This isn't training. This is long-term field trauma without medvac. Cole didn't respond. She stopped in front of him. I ran your psych scan too. Your amygdala's baseline response is 10 points below human standard. Blunted, but not pathological. Suppressed startle reflex. You show delayed fear response, but not absence. So tell me something. He waited. That Velocin, how did you stop it? He considered her for a moment, then said, I didn't stop it. No? I just didn't run. She watched him closely. That doesn't explain the submission. I didn't need it to submit. Then, what did you need? I needed it to know I wasn't food. Vera exhaled. So you stared down a predator bred to kill because you knew your scars would communicate something? Not exactly, but I know what pain looks like, and so do they. She tapped her wrist pad. The readouts vanished. She motioned toward the guards. Escort Cadet Adams back to his quarters. Cole dressed without rush. The guards let him out again. No one spoke. As they reached the top level, one of the guards, a four-eyed Kessari, broke silence. What did it feel like? What? When it stopped? Cole considered. Like silence that wasn't supposed to be there. The Kessari nodded slowly. Then, just before parting, muttered, Respect. Cole didn't answer. Back in his room, he sat down on the edge of the bed and rolled his shoulders carefully. Old wounds ached with weather changes. His right arm, especially. The bone hadn't healed straight. He should have had it rebroken and pinned. Too late now. He lay back. Let the silence settle in again. He didn't notice the new tag in his file until the next morning. Under species designation, Earthborn. Status, handle with caution. They tried to keep him out of the next lesson. The official reason was routine medical observation, but Cole recognized a containment move when he saw one. 2 days after the incident, he was still confined to quarters, visited only by silent staff and a single hollow interview from the Dean of Xenobehavioral Protocol. Nothing changed in his expression during the interview. And that, apparently, was the problem. The Academy, famed across 7 sectors for training elite command tacticians, didn't know what to do with someone who'd stared down a Velocin without so much as flinching. They couldn't file it away as a malfunction. The footage was too clear. The telemetry didn't lie. Every cadet in that room had recorded data that backed the impossible truth. So, they filed it under observation instead. But the predator wasn't done. It refused to eat, refused to move. It simply lay in the reinforced enclosure of the lower labs, eyes dull, muscles inert, head turned to the entrance. Waiting. 3 handlers tried to approach, 2 were growled away. 1 received a warning bite, non-fatal, but enough to hospitalize him with a fractured femur and 26 stitches. The instructors tried to override its behavior again. Nothing worked. It wasn't enraged. It was waiting. Send the human, said Rital, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the containment feed. It's fixated. Stimulus reintroduction may restore its drive cycle. No, said Pavak. The cadet is not Academy property. Neither is the predator. It's a prototype under classified behavioral study. The boy has already proven dominance. If we push further, we blur the chain. Rital didn't answer. She watched the monitor again. The beast hadn't moved in hours. Its breathing was shallow, rhythmic, compliant, passive. She tapped the console. Bring the cadet in. Controlled conditions. They didn't escort him this time. They simply opened his door and stood aside. Cole walked past the guards like someone heading to a meeting, not into the presence of something that could crush his skull with a flex of the jaw. But he wasn't calm, not in the way others thought. Inside, beneath the control, was memory. Pain, folded carefully into silence. The same way he folded a shirt, square, habitual, with the edges tucked so no one saw how worn it really was. When the lift hissed open onto the lab floor, the Velosin raised its head immediately. Cole stepped through the threshold. The beast stood. Not pounced. Not lunged. Just stood, back legs unfolding, spine stretching, a long exhale rumbling from its chest. Then, it stepped forward. The handlers froze. "Don't move," said one. Cole ignored him. The Velosin approached until its breath warmed his shirt. Then it sat. A low rumble echoed, not aggression, not warning, something closer to acknowledgement. Cole let it come. Then, gently, carefully, he extended one arm. The beast leaned into it. Its massive head brushed his side, pausing there, not pressing hard, just enough that he could feel the slow thrum of blood and warmth beneath the beast's skin. From behind the glass, Pavak stared in disbelief. "It's not posturing," he said. "That's not fear, that's imprinting." Rital didn't speak. She was watching something else now. The scars on Cole's arms, the way his left shoulder didn't quite sit right. The slight shift in balance when he turned. Signs of pain long lived in, not endured, acclimated. She understood now. The predator had seen the truth before any of them. This human wasn't fearless. He was familiar. Familiar with threat, with violence, with pain that doesn't kill but doesn't leave either. She keyed into the console again. "Update the cadet's file. Full behavioral clearance." Pavak frowned. "Are you authorizing partnership?" "No, I'm recognizing it already happened." The rumors evolved quickly. At first, Cole was a fluke. Then, a myth. Then, something like a challenge no one wanted to lose against. The Kasari cadet, who once mocked him, now avoided eye contact. The Elari with the twitching wings asked a quiet question after tactics class. "Did it hurt?" Cole looked at her. "When it stopped biting?" "No," she said softly. "When it didn't." He paused. "Yes." He didn't say more. She didn't ask again. On the 6th cycle after the incident, the Velosin was moved. Not to isolation. To the field chamber, where it waited beside the simulation pads, watching cadets pass like a patient instructor. And Cole? They assigned him to solo scenario analysis, said his tactical risk profile was too high for group training, but no one argued with him now. Not even the senior cadets, not after the new file tag became public. Not after they saw what it said. Name: Cole Adams. Species: human. Earthborn. Status: behavioral clearance level 4. Note: subject demonstrates non-standard apex interaction. Handle with caution. Reassessment required before dismissal. Recommended for Tier 1 survival protocol instruction. And below that, a single line in red. Velosin. Response classification. Subordinate. Not defeated. Not broken. Subordinate. To the soft-skinned, scar-marked boy from Earth. The Academy never said it officially, but the change was clear. Cole walked the corridors without a shadow behind him now. Cadets didn't step aside, exactly they hesitated, as if they had to recalibrate their assumptions before crossing his path. As if passing too close might trigger something unpredictable. But Cole wasn't unpredictable. He was consistent. First to arrive, last to leave. He didn't speak unless necessary. He didn't interrupt. He passed his physical assessments with scores just above average, but never drew attention. Only the instructors noticed what lay underneath, how he moved, like someone who didn't trust the floor, who checked corners without thinking, who always knew where the exits were, even in places without doors. It was a heavy sort of calm. And the Velosin followed him. Not through corridors, security wouldn't allow that, but when they entered shared environments, the bond became obvious. The predator didn't posture, didn't growl. It paced beside him during observation drills, obeyed nonverbal gestures with eerie precision, and ignored every other cadet like they were background noise. Most assumed Cole had trained it. They were wrong. It was week 5 when the Academy tried to reassert control. The behavioral board sent a request dressed up as an invitation for Cole to attend a full protocol review. Not unusual. Every cadet faced reviews. Except this one came with a test. A control scenario, Rital explained when he arrived, to examine the limits of your interaction. Cole said nothing. Standard predator array. You'll be placed in the primary chamber with the Velosen present. Then we introduce a secondary threat. To observe behavioral shift. He blinked once. You're going to attack it? No, we're going to attack you. She let that hang in the air a moment. We want to see whether the Velosen remains passive, whether its loyalty is to you or to its own safety. The implications for non-verbal dominance cues could shift our understanding of predator psychology across species. Cole didn't flinch. What are the limits of the attack? No permanent injury. He nodded once. Okay. The chamber was cold. Steel floors, no scent, no echo. Designed that way to remove variables. Sterile environments helped isolate instinct. Cole stood at the center. No armor, no helmet, just academy fatigues and a tracker on his wrist. The Velosen entered without resistance. It trotted to him immediately, circled once, and settled at his side. Then came the test. From a side door, a synthetic biped entered combat frame, lightly armed, fast, unpredictable. It didn't walk in slowly, it charged. Straight for Cole. No sound, no warning. He didn't move. Didn't raise a hand. The Velosen stood. 2 steps, a roar like a tearing world, and it intercepted the attacker mid-run. The synthetic's frame shattered against the chamber wall, sparking as it skidded across steel. The Velosen returned to Cole's side and sat. Silent. Still. Unshaken. From the observation deck, Rital stared at the feed. Well, she murmured, that answers that. But Pavak said nothing. He was watching Cole. Cole hadn't even looked at the attacker. He'd known the Velosen would stop it. Not because it was trained. Because it chose to. They called him to the dean's office the next morning. He walked in, saluted, waited. The Dean of Behavioral Combat Protocol was an insectoid species with no eyes and 6 arms, each of which tapped rhythmically at different terminals. I've reviewed your file, Cadet Adams, it said. Yes, sir. Besis. Normally, your actions would be seen as dangerous, reckless even. Breeding submission through direct challenge can destabilize long-term behavior, but the evidence is difficult to dispute. Cole remained silent. The dean's limbs stopped tapping. We're not concerned about the Velosen anymore. A pause. We're concerned about you. That made Cole lift his gaze. Sir? You've displayed high tolerance to threat stimulus, non-standard fear responses, and psychological markers of sustained trauma that would disqualify most cadets from even entering this program. Yet you've passed every test. You've bonded with a species that fails most imprint protocols. You've done so without pharmacology, conditioning, or psychic interference. Which begs the question. Another pause. Where did you learn it? Cole didn't lie. I didn't. I survived it. The dean's body stilled. Then, it nodded once. That's what I suspected. Graduation came without ceremony. Cole was not top of his class. His name wasn't read first. He didn't give a speech. But when the cadets lined up for their final deployment orders, his was the only one delivered by hand. A sealed directive. Tier 1 survival protocol. It was the highest classification the Academy could offer. He tucked it into his jacket without looking at it. When the ceremony ended, he turned to leave, but found the Alari cadet standing nearby. The same one who'd asked if it hurt. You're leaving, she said. I am. She looked like she wanted to say more. But instead she just asked, will you remember us? Cole considered. No, he said gently, not unless I have to. She didn't take offense. They both understood what that meant. He boarded the transport later that night. The Velosen was already inside. Its eyes found his immediately. And for the first time, Cole smiled. Not wide, not bright, but real. He stepped inside. The door sealed behind them. And somewhere far behind him, deep in the Academy's central databanks, a record updated one last time. Subject: Cole Adams. Status: Graduated, Tier 1 clearance. Psychological profile. Unstable under standard metrics. Stable under extreme duress. Volosin bond, confirmed. Behavioral risk, noted. Advisory. If encountered in the field, do not provoke, do not underestimate, do not assume prey. And below, in unchangeable red. Earthborn, handle with caution.